So let us begin with the very first video of the HTML tutorials which I have planned to work on this winter. And so as promised, I have actually come with the HTML tutorials on the 17th of December of 2017. And before I start, I wish every one of you to have a very good and happy winter. Hope you all enjoy the Christmas and you end the year 2017 with a happy note and start the year 2018 with high hopes. I won't talk about the resolutions because resolutions are just resolutions. They are not to be fulfilled. We all know that how much we fulfill our resolutions of every year. I mean, I had a resolution to go, to make muscles, and I'm still that skinny guy. So resolutions remains as resolutions. They hardly get fulfilled. So let's not speak about it. Let's just keep in the mind that we are in a holiday season right now. I'm back after a long time. I mean, the semesters were on, so I was not able to make any videos. So after a long time, I'm back with this video on HTML tutorials. So let's start. The first slide actually is about the course outline of the session, the course outline. I mean, how we will plan our course of this particular video, not of the entire series. We are talking about this video, alright, the course outline. The first thing is that we'll learn about the basics of markup languages, the very basics of markup languages. Then we will speak about the history of markup languages. I mean, all the markup languages. Now, once we start with markup languages, then we will understand that why they are called so, and then as we progress, we learn about the history of it. Then we will know about it, what is HTML. Now, when we often see this term that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are actually said in one go. I mean, as if they are brothers. But we will focus our tutorials only in this HTML part. But what are these CSS and JavaScripts? We'll just tell bits of it, and I have actually planned for CSS and JavaScript once I finish off with HTML, because if we want to make a full web page, then we need all the three, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all at the same time. So after we finish what is HTML and what are these stuffs, we will see some of the examples online of these things. What are the attributes that HTML gives, what are the attributes that CSS gives, and what are the attributes that JavaScript gives. After that we will look after this markup language. What is a markup language and what is a programming language. What is markup language we will learn in very beginning, but after that we will see what is the difference between a markup language and a programming language. So this will make up our next part. And finally we will end up with the features of HTML, the features of HTML, and finally the environment setup, the environment setup of this thing, of this HTML. I mean, how you can practice HTML. We will see both the online editors and the offline editors. Once if you have a good internet connection, then we can do it online, and if we don't have an internet connection all the time, then we will use some of the offline editors. We will look after that. So let us proceed. Let us start up with the first part, which is the markup language basics. So this is the definition of a markup language. It is written over here that markup languages are designed for the processing, definition, and presentation of text. The language specifies code for formatting both the layout and style within a text file. The code used to specify the formatting are called tags. HTML is an example of a widely used and known markup language. I mean, in web pages, what we see is that there is a lot of text, like there are, if you open Google, you will, and you search something. Suppose I write Wikipedia and I press enter. We see different types of texts, arranged in different way. I mean, some are links that are given, which we see in blue. After that, below that, in green, small write-ups, the site's address is given, and after that, a brief description of text is given. So these stuffs are actually handled and designed by HTML. So so what is HTML? HTML is a markup language. So what is a markup language? Markup language actually helps us to design and present the text in a proper manner, in a proper manner. And we use a lot of codes to do that. And we use tags. What are tags? We'll learn in the next video once I upload it. Do watch it. So what are tags and how we use them, we will all look after that. Alright, now HTML as the full form goes, hypertext markup language. So HTML is a markup language. So HTML, yes, HTML is only used, to present the text in a proper way. I mean, it is oriented in a proper way. The heading goes first, then the paragraph, then all those, subheadings, etc., etc. The way they are designed, the way they should come, are actually done by a markup language. Let's proceed. So this slide actually makes the history, and I actually love history very much, so I always try to present the history of every aspect that we see. Alright, so let us start, like how markup language started. This GML, generalized markup language, was designed by Charles Goldfarb, Edward Mosher, and Raymond Lory. And you can see that GML, so this is how the name actually came, and they named it as generalized markup language, and it was done in the year 1969 under IBM, and under these people who actually worked at IBM. And after that, it got an ISO certification in the year 1986, and it started to be called as SGML, which is actually the standard generalized markup language. So it was actually in 1986, so you can see the difference in years is very huge. After that, in 1991, this HTML, hypertext markup language, was launched, and it was launched by Massachusetts Institute of Technology under the head of Tim Berners-Lee, who is actually the head of the next thing that we see here, that is the W3C, that is a World Wide Web Consortium, which was founded on October 1st, 1994, and it is actually presently being headed by Tim Berners-Lee. So, and in fact, HTML and all other markup languages are actually being published by W3C. Like, so after that came the second version of HTML 2.0 in 1995 with some updates. Then came the HTML 3.2, then came HTML 4.0.1 in 1999, after which actually HTML took off. HTML took off after this version. Before 1997, 1995, HTML was really being used. I mean, it was used, but actually the World Wide Web was not so famous during these times. But once HTML 4.0.1 came, it actually attracted people to World Wide Web. So it is actually the place where it is actually when the HTML started to move up. And after that, HTML actually segregated into two parts. One is the XHTML, another one is the XML. XML is extensible markup language. It is mostly used in Android nowadays, But XHTML actually had some of the coding, coding abilities. HTML only designs, it only does things with codes. It doesn't have any coding properties. But XHTML was actually having those coding capabilities, and its first version came out in 2000, but it was a huge flop. I mean, there was really some serious problems for which the XHTML was brought down, and again HTML5 was actually launched in the year 2014. So this is how the history went on, and finally we move to the next slide, which is what is HTML, what is CSS, and what is JavaScript. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are three brothers. They always work together. They In today's world, whatever we see, whatever web pages we see, whatever the front end web pages that we see, what is the front end web, what is the front end of web designing? Front end is which is the client can see. Client in the sense, or user, for not client, user can see. These things that, like me, when I go into Google, I see a lot of stuff. There is that Gmail thing tab on the top right, then we have the Google search bar in the middle, and below that we have the search button, and then we have that I am feeling lucky kind of a key button that we have, and then the language selection bar, then and below we have some more text. So these entire things are actually being maintained not only by HTML but with CSS and JavaScript together. All right, so this is how, so what they three might contribute to a same thing, to the same thing, but they are not contributing to the same aspect or same property that they give to the same thing. I mean, HTML, as you can see, is mainly concerned about the content. I mean, the text, the text, how they will be how they will be placed, and what comes before and what comes after. So it is actually the structural part. CSS is the style. I mean, how you will present, what will the background color, what will the color of the text, how big, what will be the font style, how big will be the font. So this is actually concerned about the presentational part. And finally we have the JavaScript, which is mainly concerned about the behavioral factors, behavioral factors of how the page will respond to different things. A very good example of JavaScript which we often face is, suppose when we log in somewhere, log in to Facebook, or Gmail, a pop-up appears that do you want to remember your password and mail ID, and then you have that yes or no, that option. So that is actually being maintained by the JavaScript. That thing is being generated by JavaScript. CSS is actually the style that goes with it, and content. Now the example we will see after we finish off with the slides. Once we finish off with all the slides, we will see the online part, like how to do stuffs. So let us move on. Finally, we have the features of HTML. Now the features of HTML are the images, the text, the videos, sounds, headers, footers, and forms. I mean, these are the things that you can do with HTML. You can put images, into positions. You can provide some text and videos, even in fact sounds. So videos and sounds were actually introduced in HTML5. Before that, we had to install a Flash player. We had to install Adobe Flash player, and then we could play games or videos. But nowadays, it doesn't happen. Once you open up a video, you just press the play button, and you listen to the music or watch the video. So HTML5 actually helped in this, and we can provide headers, to a particular section of a page. We can provide footers. In fact, the newest versions have helped us to put forms. We can create forms. We will have a project on creating forms. Once we are finished with it, we're finished with these all the necessary videos and necessary tutorials to kind of design a form, a login form. And we had another aspect that we said I said I would discuss, is that the difference between a markup language and a programming language. By now, I hope you have understood what are the differences. I mean, in markup language you work only with the text, don't you? And in programming language you don't work with text. You work with logics, you work with numbers, you work with datas and how to process them. So there's a difference between markup language and programming language. So before you start HTML or CSS or JavaScript, anything, just do one thing: clear your mind. All right, I mean, you have to be really creative. You have to know you have to know the color combinations, like which color works better, which color actually kind of works. I mean, the contrasts, stuffs like that, you need to work on them. You need to look, you need to understand them, like what color combinations actually look good and attract the viewers. All right, and you have to be very creative in these aspects. Whereas in programming language you have to be very logical. You have to think that how much less time consuming that your program will be, and etc, etc. Another thing is that in markup language, it is a markup language is an interpreter based language, but programming languages are generally a compiler based language, though we have some interpreter based languages like Python and R, but mainly the programming languages are compiler based. In compiler based programming languages, what we do is that we submit the entire code to to a compiler, then it checks and then we can execute if the program is bug free. But in markup languages it doesn't matter. I mean, it will execute till that part which doesn't have any error, and once it gets an error it will stop executing. I mean, that is the difference between an interpreter based language and a um, compiler based language. So these are the few differences between a markup language and a programming language. So let's move on to the next slide, and the final slide. In this slide we will look at how we will will set up the environment to work with HTML to code. So the first thing is Thimble, the next is Tryit editor, and the final is the TUTORIALSPOINT editor. Thimble is actually by Mozilla Firefox. It is actually being promoted by Mozilla Firefox. Tryit, on the other hand, is actually by W3 Schools, um, which is actually the kind of place where know you will get documents about HTML. The W3C that we have, that they have a course type, course kind of thing, that is the um, W3 schools. And offline you can of course work with Notepad, and Notepad Plus, these stuffs, and one more thing is that Sublime Text 3, you can use that as well. I will provide with all the links. Notepad is actually they're inbuilt in your computer. Notepad Plus, you need to download it. I will provide the link, and Sublime Text 3 is also to be downloaded. I'll provide the link in the description. In fact, you can check it out, it is there. And Thimble, Tryout, and TutorialsPoint, these links to these places will also be, I'll also show them. So let us start, to see the practical sessions. I mean, today will be a very basic ones. I mean, how you can access these editors and some of the examples of HTML, CSS, and JavaScripts. So let us go to the browser. All right, so this actually ends, and let's go to the browser. I'm using Mozilla Firefox right now. Now this is a Google login page, I mean the Google search page. So let us see if we consider this to be a kind of an example. So what goes is that you have this image of Google, right? So this is the image attribute of HTML. Then you have this search bar. which is also by HTML. Then you have these buttons which are also done by HTML. You have one more button of sign in here. You have one more button kind of a thing, you know. This is actually a button because once you click you get various options, and these are again in some images of, these are images which are actually being linked with some sites, you know. Then you have the Gmail link and the images link. So we will see how these things are created, but the design, that this is in the center, these things in the top right, these things over here are actually done by CSS. So we will not learn about them, but we will learn these things. Now let us go to a site of Wikipedia, you know. Let's say Wikipedia, say I write dogs. I'm a very dog lover. I'm a big dog lover, you know. So I love dogs. So let's open up this link. Now suppose, now the good thing is that web pages are nowadays, you know, open sources, you know. So if you suppose you want to know how this page has been written, so you can see the code basically. What you have to do is you have to go over here in the three bars, alright. Then you have to go to the options. Oh, I'm sorry, not options. You have to go to the I don't know, I mean control Q. I'm sorry, you should press, you should right press, you should left press this, and you should press Q. See, in inspect element, if you press inspect element, a block will pop up over here. Alright, a block pops up, and here you can see what means what. Suppose you click here and you do inspect element, then this part is actually this one. You can see that how the code goes. Alright, so this is how stuff needs to be done. You can learn yourself to code, you know. Then we have these blocks. We will talk about these things in the next videos, you know, but what I just want to show you is that you can actually look how a program, how an HTML code look, though this has many stuffs, you know, like this is the HTML part. Alright, so these are stuffs, you know. Suppose I want to inspect this as well, so you have it over here. Alright, if you want to learn something, what you need to do, just select. Suppose you want to see how these things have been written, just press right click and then inspect element, and then you will get the code of that part, you know, like this, this. So these are the codes that you have actually, that we can actually see, you know. So let's get back, and now we will look at the editors, you know, how to use them, and the editors. The first editor is Thimble by Mozilla Firefox. Once you press Thimble and press enter, um, in case you don't know the meaning of Thimble, this is a Thimble, you know, none of our concern. Let's go to the Mozilla Firefox thing, that Thimble by Mozilla. So let's start a project from scratch. They will create a new project page for you. Alright, so it takes a bit of time to load your project. Alright, so this is the web page where you will work. This is where you write down your code, and this is where the output comes. For example, you have something like make something amazing with the web. So you have make something amazing with the web. So suppose if I change this text, alright, you can see I removed the W and it changed from here. So working here is very easy. Once you unselect this auto stuff and you remove web from here, then also this works. So stuffs like this actually work, you know. So this is a very interesting part that has been hosted by the Mozilla Firefox, that is a Thimble. I'll provide you with the link, and let's move back and look at the Tryit editor. So let's see the Tryit editor v3.5. Alright, let's see, this is by the W3 schools. Once you open it up, you will have this. Alright, this is an example that you create a button and there on click you get an alert. Alright, so let's see, if we click this, we get an alert. Alright, so this is the alert that you get, so this is where you run your code and you get the output over here. You write your code over here and you get the output over here. The next thing is that you will have, the next one is the tutorials.point HTML editor. So write HTML editor tutorials.point, so we have this online HTML editor tutorials.point, the very first one, and there you have this, now don't get worried about this, you just have to press preview and this will be removed and the things will come. Alright, so you can see actually this has got both HTML and kind of CSS and JavaScript intact. You can see that this part actually makes up the CSS, the stylings is done by CSS and the text has actually been done by the HTML. So these are some of the things that we need to we need to be getting access to, so we are finished with the online part. So let's now begin with the offline things. The first thing is the Notepad. Alright, see, I have both Notepad and Notepad Plus Plus. The processes are the same. In Notepad you select something, alright, and you write a code, suppose HTML, suppose I write like something like this, head, close the tag like this, I write body, and then I write something like this and I write body, and then I close the HTML tag. So this is a code that I have written in HTML, and now I want to store it. Alright, I want to save it. I save it. Let's store it in .desktop. Let us do it. So look, I will write abc dot html. Alright, you save it like this and you save it. Now look, it has automatically been saved in form of a web page. You can see that. Once I open it up, it opens up something like this with the text that I had written within it. Alright, so just you have to give the .html part, alright, to make it an HTML embedded web page as file, and it will be treated as an HTML file. The next is the Notepad++. It is same, you just have to store it with the same thing. And another one is Sublime Text 3. Let me show you how Sublime looks. So there you have Sublime Text 3. Select that, you open that up, and it looks somewhat like this. But before you work with it, what you need to do is you need to save the file somewhere. Save. We again save it in desktop, as suppose asdf dot html, and you save it. See, you have this file created over here. You can even drag it over here. You have multiple windows over here, so you press HTML, you have this. So I actually, that is why I love HTML. Once I selected HTML, it selected all the things that needs to be there, and if I want, I can write some text over here and I can save it. And this was the thing that I saved it in form of, and here is my text, and this is the web page. So this is how we do stuffs. This is how we do stuffs, And this actually is the end of the first video on HTML. So I hope you liked it. For the next video we will actually look how to code, but we will learn about tags, how to use them, and we will also see the different types of tags that we have, some examples of them, and then we will write a very simple code, a very simple code, and we'll look after that. And after the next video we'll be back, so this marks the end, and I hope you all liked it. Please subscribe to my channel. And there is one more good news for every one of you, that is I am going to host the backup of all these videos in form of texts, like in form of various tutorials that we have in various places, but it will be in a it will be hosted using Google Sites. I'll be using new Google Sites to actually host the web page. So once I'm done with it, I'm actually working on it, so once I'm done with it, I will provide the link on the video following the day I host the site, and you will have entire access to it. And so this is one of the good news. And the next thing is that once I reach 10,000 views, I will monetize my page, my channel, web channel, my YouTube channel, and whatever revenue I get, I'll actually spend them not for my own cause, but to look after the stray dogs that we have here in India. So if you are a dog lover, please do subscribe to my channel and please watch this video, share them so that I can get enough views, and I can actually work for these stray um, innocent creatures. They are really innocent. It's cold out there, they don't have proper shelter, they sleep on the street. um, we don't treat them good, but once I get the money, proper amount of more, I am still a student, so I don't have that income. So the only way I can do that is posting videos on YouTube, and the way I get the money from that once I monetize that. But I'm very young in terms of posting videos, so I have a plan of doing that. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and a very happy winter I hope you spend with your family and friends. So see you next time. I'm signing off. This is Anonno Sharnal from Tutorials, Computer Lovers Tutorial, and see you next time. Thank you.